we wanted to talk our first impressions of a little game that came out this past week called Fire Emblem Engage, a game from a series that you and I both adore,
Mhm.
and a maybe slightly controversial entry into a long-running series from Nintendo.
Oh,
You and I have both put in what, maybe 3 to 5 hours or so at this point.
yeah, 5
Um,
or 6 for me.
enough to see a handful of chapters to see how the new the equivalent of the Garrigmach monastery works in this game, do some of the emblem the ring emblem material, experience quite a handful of new characters and relationship stuff. So we've got the foundation, right? Like, we're not super far in, but we've seen a lot of what the game has to offer at this point. And so I just kind of want to say, early impressions. Where are you on this? How does it stack up in the early hours to something like Three Houses, which again I know we both loved, or even older games if you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, so we both love Three Houses a lot. It was a very different Fire Emblem game, and I think
Mhm.
that's comparing it to Three Houses is basically what the internet's been doing for Engage for a week or so now, and it is very different. Really liked hanging out at the monastery, doing
Mhm.
all the like individual side quest things, making the connections between characters. I really enjoyed that stuff. Um, but Engage lets you get into the action so much faster,
Mhm.
and I really like that a lot. Like in the first, couple hours of Three Houses, you may have done one or two battles.
Yes.
In this game, you've done several battles,
Yeah.
and you can push the plot along as fast as you want to. So I'm really enjoying that. You can just hop into things. Um, Related to that, Fire Emblem, um, Fire Emblem Three Houses felt like a game that really took all of your attention because
Mhm.
you were constantly trying to figure out, how do I, or which students do I bond with? Which skills do I teach them? Do I change their class? Who does I think this like lost belonging belong to? How can I return it to them? So you've got like all these different systems and these little like life sim things that you're trying to play with, and you really have to focus on it to play it.
Yeah.
Engage is much more of this is just a strategy RPG, and you can play it while you're doing other things. You can pick it up and put it down sort of casually.
Yeah.
Not saying it's like a casual game, but you can pick it up and put it down without really worrying about where was I, how's this going to affect the calendar system. I'm
Mhm.
really enjoying that part of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like you said, it feels like a slimmed down Three Houses, if we're going to make that comparison. Again, I don't think Three Houses is actually a good comparison to this game. They're very different games, as you pointed out. In fact, I think like um, Three Houses is more like Triangle Strategy in that, like, they really want the narrative beats to take a while for you to sit with them, for you to, and again, this may change going forward, but the narrative is largely forgettable in the
Mhm.
first 3-4 hours of Fire Emblem Engage. It
Yeah,
may get
push the
better,
drink.
but the writing kind of sucks. The um, characters aren't all that interesting. I'm one of the few that said I love the main character designs. I love how just wildly goofy they are, and I think a lot of the character design in this game is just bonkers in a good way to me, because this game is just pure candy for me. Is the best way to put it. It like you said, you kind of jump in, you play the game. I don't have to worry about too many deep systems yet. Now, again, there's like systems with the rings where you pair up your party members with a famous hero from Fire Emblem Past, and it's very fan servicey and fun in that way. They make your character stronger and give them this fun little mechanic where they have like a Super Saiyan fusion dance, every couple of turns, which
It's
is kind
true.
of cool. Um, but for the most part, your characters are the roles that they're assigned. Your main character is a sword fighter. You get your cavalry characters. You get your lancers. You get your Pegasus riders. You get your archers, and you decide, all right, let's build a party that I want with these characters. And they each feel very fleshed out and interesting in that way. There's already a few characters that I already know are kind of standouts for me that I'm excited to learn more about these characters. There's an archer girl that you get really early on who seems super cool, that I'm digging. There's Vander, who's the requisite old dude military guy who
Gotta
just
have
kind of
them.
comes right in the beginning. He's a good dude. It looks fun, but again, largely I couldn't tell you what's going on in the story other than I got to gather some rings, and I'm apparently a dragon who looks like a little girl. I don't really understand that. I've not seen that I'm a dragon, but apparently I am, and so we'll find out more about that as the story goes on. But I've been called it at least 100 times in the first 3 hours, so I'm just
Really
going to
don't
assume
shut
that
up
it's
about it.
true. Yeah. Again, largely forgettable story. The combat in this game is people have already said this, and I don't think I'm saying anything new. The most interesting, flows the best, and feels really, really deep. I think this game's going to get very, very complex, difficult, and enjoyable to play the further in I get. I'm already having a much better time with the individual battles in the first couple hours than I did with a lot of the first half of Three Houses.
Yeah.
Um, the fact that when you're moving characters around, you can just kind of free run them around their movement grid, is such a minor thing. Like, but it rules. It rules so much. It makes the combat feel so much more fluid and enjoyable. The maps so far have been fun. The interactions are good. It's yeah, I'm loving it.
And they brought back the weapon, triangle. You know,
Yeah,
the
yep.
rock, paper, scissors thing with the weapons. I missed that in Three Houses.
Hmm.
So I'm really glad that's back. But, one minor criticism I have of it so far,
Hmm.
we both loved triangle strategy a lot. And one of the things I liked about it was how you positioned your characters in the grid,
Oh yeah,
determined,
yeah,
like, how many hits you were gonna get. So if you had a character in front of and behind an enemy, you could do like a combo attack.
yeah.
I'm kinda missing that here. Like, I just think Triangle Strategy did that really well, and I don't know,
I yeah.
would've been cool to see something like that here too.
I wonder if there's going to be more of that as the game goes on, because there are certain interactions I've seen from enemies, and early on you get a character who uses an axe, and if you put him next to a character, he'll do a minor attack at the beginning of your turn if he's positioned next to you. And there's another
Mhm.
character who can use a move where if you position her, everyone around her for the next turn, she'll jump in and take half the damage for them, right, and work as like a tank. So there are interactions as far as like placement and movement in between turns, but I'm assuming that's something that will flesh out more as you unlock more skills and deeper customization for the characters. But early on, yeah, it feels a little bit light on that, and there's not
Yeah.
any like surefire like strategies like, okay, if I get these two characters in the same location, I'm going to just dominate. Nothing like that yet. It's a very methodical game. um I am playing on hard for the
We should
first
talk
time.
about that. Yep.
Usually I play on normal in these kinds of games because I'm not super great at. I like strategy RPGs, but I'm not great at them. But I decided, I if there had been achievements, I would have platinumed Three Houses. So I thought, this time around, I'm going to go hard mode. I'm going to do, for the very first time, classic,
Wow.
where you lose
Wow.
characters if they die. What I found is I'm very grateful for the fact that there is a gem you get early on in the game that lets you restart turns about 10 times a mission, because I'm using almost all of those resets in order to avoid losing characters. Um, I It creates a tension though in playing the game that like I'm gonna replay a battle if I lose a character. I can't. I don't actually want to lose the characters, but unlike playing on casual difficulty where I would just kind of brute force my way through to the end of the mission because there were no consequences. Now I'm playing more methodically. I'm learning the systems better. I'm understanding
Hmm.
like you said, the triangle, right? I don't know. I can't remember if this was in like, because I played Awakening, Fates, Three Houses, and now this. I got started in the 3DS Fire Emblems. I can't remember if there was a break system in those games. I think that's new to Engage, right? Where if you target the weakness with a character, that unit that you hit can't do any counterattacks until the start of their next turn. And so it creates this really compelling system where if you have like an axe wielder, you need to bring him up against, I think it's spear
Is he s
wielders. I think
Yeah,
axes
spears.
axes break spears. You bring the axe wielder to the spear wielder. He hits the spear wielder, and now the spear wielder can't counterattack your sword wielder when they attack him later in that turn. And that's a really cool system that it encourages you to think about where you place your characters and who you group with who based off of what the battlefield looks like at the beginning. And so I'm spending a lot more time setting up combat, taking my turns, really taking in the battlefield instead of just like rushing through it like I did when I played Three Houses on casual difficulty or on casual mode.
Yeah.
What are you playing? Are you doing casual?
I'm on casual and I started off on normal, and
Yeah.
everybody should know this before you start this game. If you pick a difficulty, you can't move that difficulty up later in the game.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
move it down, but you cannot move it back up because playing through normal, I thought this is a little too easy. I know I don't want to do classic mode, casual mode's fine with me for this game, but I want it to be a little bit more difficult than this, and I'm stuck. I'm already,
Yeah.
5 or 6 hours in, so I don't really wanna start over, but it does feel very easy.
Yeah. And on the flip side, hard for me at least, it is hard, right? If I am not thinking very carefully about my turns and my placement and spending a turn every now and then playing defensively to draw enemies towards me or whatever, I have ended up in very, very difficult situations. I've lost characters to the point where I've had to restart missions, right, because I didn't want to lose that character. And so I'm playing this game a lot slower than I did Three Houses, but like I said, in the early hours, I'm having a lot more fun with the actual battles than I was. Though, again, story forgettable, at least for now. I don't necessarily see it getting much better, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think the main focus here are these battles, and I'm totally okay with that. We've got a lot of variety with the actual battlefields. The character builds, like you mentioned earlier, are really nice, especially early on. Like you're getting a lot of
Mhm.
different types of characters, and you can kind of figure out who you want to use. The other thing I really love about this game, and this is the last thing I'll say about it, because we'll do a more full review in a few weeks. But I like being able to walk around the battlefield once the battle's over
Mhm.
and
Yeah, that's
find
cool.
items and talk to your party members and stuff. I just think it's totally unnecessary, but a nice touch.
Yeah. And the animal adoption.
Yes, I have a dog and a sheep.
Yeah, those are the two that I grabbed from the first adoption as well. I mean, yeah, it's cool. It's just a fun little mechanic. They hang out at your farm, and every now and then they drop items.
Yeah, so it's
Why not?
it's almost like you can do, a little bit of the monastery kind of stuff at your base. So it didn't totally lose that, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't force you to do any of that work. I'm
Yeah.
really enjoying this game a lot.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be good. Early hours are positive. I'm excited to meet a lot of the other characters that we've seen in some of the uh, pre-release content. Again, I I like the aesthetic. I think the graphics look great. I think it's a step up from Three Houses, which I already thought was a good looking game. It's proof again that the Switch still has some legs, and uh, you know what better series for the Switch than a meaty strategy RPG? I mean, it's just another excuse for me to. It's the first time in a few months where I've been pulled away from my Steam Deck and back to the Switch, and I'm loving it. So